Hey everyone, this is Tracy with Color Me This. We are on episode 161, and this is a supplies use episode, and I have to do it today because I used this product on my 4th of July cards. So it is what I call a crossover supply that I actually purchased the first 36 of them when they first came out, and I bought them not for coloring, I bought them for card making. So they are the Holtz Distress colored pencils. They are a watercolor pencil, and I have all 72 of them now. I have put them in color family order. I actually used someone else's color family. It was a photo that I downloaded that it wasn't like a swatch. It was these actually in their color order on an image, and I do not know who created it. It might have even come from Ranger, whose the brand this product is, and I have already created my swatch insert. I have not done the wet application, so I just wanted to actually get them on. I actually own 72, but there are 73, and in the color family order, number 68 is the remaining one, and it is like a brown. I can't remember what it is called. And the reason why there are 73 instead of 72 is because of picket fence, which is white. Hey, future Tracy popping in. I forgot to show you guys my swatch. So I did, in addition to making the case insert that I have not water activated the pencil, I did also create a swatch. Here is my colored pencil style of swatch. And I pulled from Artist's Loft 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. It is really inexpensive. I think I own 2 or 3 of it. I bought it years ago, and it's traveled with me thousands of miles in the trailer. So it was so happy to have me rip out a piece and cut it in half, just like I do the traditional pencils. And I went ahead and did a dry and wet application, and then punched holes so that I can do color matching. And that's it. Back to the regular programming. I have a couple of different ways to use these, and I also store them 2 different ways. You saw the pencils themselves being stored in my pencil case, the single slot case. This is the tin that they came in. I have 6 of these tins. 2 of these tins are now being reformatted to hold half pans, because I use them if I want a more vibrant application. I use a sharpener, and and I'm gonna go ahead and do this particular one for you because I'm going to use it, and I'm filling these up not in one by one. It's as I use them. So each of the trays holds 36 of these pans, and you can see that when I did my cards, I was using red, blue, gray, and black, and so I will pull out what colors I want. I do have these labeled, and they have magnet sheets. The pans and the magnets I did buy from Temu, and I need a little cup holder of some variety, or I can do it this way. Oh, I know what I did last time. So I have this little tray. This tray is actually for either glitter or embossing powder. So I'm using, for today's demonstration, Mermaid Lagoon, which is a blue that I'm going to use for sky. And this is a woodless pencil. So every bit of the shavings is reusable. So when I was doing my cards, I created some shavings. I then took the shavings. I have a little brush here. This is a mica brush for using mica powder. And I just kind of dump these into the pan. I'm going to move a little bit here so you can see better. Do make sure if you have one of these little trays that it is clean, or you can contaminate your watercolors. I do say that because I have experienced that. So these shavings do get used up really quickly when they're in the pan because you use them and it flattens and then you get it wet. I'm going to go ahead and you can keep tossing these back in the pink tray or whatever tray you're going to use. I'm going quickly. When I was doing this the day we were doing the cards, I was not so fast. All right, I have salvaged every bit of these shavings that I can. I have a water brush. I also have, if I don't want to contaminate my brush, I have what's called a pipette. I have like 50 of these. I don't even remember where I got them. Probably from Amazon, I would say. And this one does not work as well as it should. But I have picked up some water I have a bowl of water. I have picked up some water and I am going to go ahead and let it drip into this pan, and it's going to saturate the shavings and they will turn, and you have to be really careful because see I have a little bit of blue now on this. So once you have these pans wet, that activates the watercolor, so you now have a lot more on there. They're very highly activated, pretty vibrant. So with this, the technique I was using at the time, I was not using brushes. I actually used sponges, and I like to put little handles on my sponges. These are sponges that are cut up. They're round. I have a half of a one left. You can buy these at the Dollar Tree. They do come in different sizes of roughness, so you can look around and find if you want rougher ones or smoother ones. This particular one is a retired Stampin' Up! Sponge. With these, I literally just took and dunked my sponge into the surface of the wettened shavings, which then you can see it got totally wet, and I used up probably most of the shavings in this, and I probably filled this multiple times. This is a bright blue. Here is the bright red, which I have not used up as much of the pigment, but I just use them like they're watercolor pans, like I would use watercolor that is a moist watercolor, but these do dry all the way. Okay, so now before I do a demo of a coloring project, I want to show you my cards so you can see the application. And this is the traditional use that I would use for these. First, I did on a watercolor paper. I used a wash. I do not think it was prize ribbon. I think this was chipped sapphire. And I used a big brush, a big fatty, even fatter than this one. And then I would dab into the pan and just ran it side to side. I already had the heat embossed fireworks, and the fireworks I then took and concentrated the chipped sapphire in the darkest color that I could get. And that was how this card was done. The next set of cards, I had actually used a technique with dye ink from Stampin' Up, and I didn't think it was dark enough, so it looked somewhat like this one. So this is actually using the soft blending brushes, and this was as dark as I could get the colors. So I knew I wanted to play with the Ranger watercolor pencils, so I had 9 of these backgrounds. This particular background is water splattered, stenciled, and sprayed with gold watercolor splattered in a box. And I even have, at the end, I went ahead and grabbed, I have misters, it was this one. So I have misters filled with some acrylic metallic that then was mixed with water. So a very low percentage of the acrylic. This is called champagne. And then I also have copper. So that is the settled mica. Not very much mica at all. And you shake it up. So I guess we're talking about multiple products. So here's what it looks like shaken up. And if you want a really neat effect on your coloring background or even on the coloring, hopefully you can see the little splatters of that champagne color. This might have even been that copper. So lots of treatments done on that one. Then I decided I wanted to go darker. So I thought to bring out these pencils because I had just put them in their case, but I had not used them. So I took blue and red and black, and I used a heavy weight of the color and got a very rich, vibrant, each one is a little different. So let's turn this one right side up. This one you can see I didn't go as dark, and I didn't do black. This one I went very dark, except for this little bottom area I did not. And then I edged everything with that sponge with the black. This is my favorite kind of card making that I do, where I do all sorts of treatments to the background. I like this particular one. You can see I've folded the corners. I roughed up the edges. This one is smooth. I did a little bit. Oh, this one I crumpled. So this one has been actually crumpled up into a ball and reopened a couple times to give it a more crumbly look. And now I'm going to take this. This is a heat embossed, so it's a resist, which is a perfect way for me to create my backgrounds as I do my heat emboss. And then I sponge colors and I do embossing. This little pattern is a dry embossing folder. And so this is what prompted me to make this video, because I had used these pencils. So all of these techniques can be mixed and matched however you want to work on a colored page background. So I have taken one of my practice images and I have scribbled some Mermaid Lagoon, and I am going to take, this is just a water brush, and it is dry, so I'm going to prime it, just squeezing. It says to push to get some water to activate. Everybody's probably used these. And then what I have done on this sunflower, if it looks kind of funky colored, it is because I have used Frisket. This is drawing gum, liquid Frisket, and I have a special metal called a rolling pen, and it is from the drafting days, and I just dip it and it holds some of the Frisket in between where there's a gap. So I can very precisely go around, and you can see, hopefully if I've got the light correct, that I have put the Frisket around the edges, and I kind of pulled it in a little bit so it's somewhat protected. If I was being really messy, I could also cut some Post-it notes in the middle and cover up the middle section. But I still would use the Frisket to go very precisely into the flowers, because what I want to do is take my water brush. Most of my backgrounds, by the way, are pretty boring. They're nothing like my cards. They are usually a light blue or light aqua Copic marker background. So this is just stepping it up a little bit where I can get a little bit of a different look I can get in here deep into the corners. It's to do the Copic markers is a little bit more work because I have to smooth out my strokes, and this watercolor method is just the way quicker. This paper that I'm using is the Nina Bristol Vellum 67 pound. Now, if I wanted to go in and have it darker behind the flowers themselves, I can just do a direct application and get a much more vibrant color. You will want to make sure you don't let it dry, so go in and then pull the color away so it's exactly what you want before you move away from that section, because this will dry and then it requires a lot more rework. And since this paper is reactive to being wet and will ripple like you see it doing, you'll want to work pretty quickly and not have to go back a bunch. Okay, so this side, I'm kind of doing quadrants. I want to show you guys the different techniques. So this was scribbling on the paper. This is scribbling on the paper, but then going back with a direct application of the pencil to the brush so that it's a little bit more dark. And then if I want to lighten it up and the outer edges, I can just add a little more water. Okay, and see how much more this was nice, quick, so it's not as rippled. People have talked about ironing their paper to flatten it out some, but definitely be careful because pencil, it will melt, so you want to be careful with that. So I'm not saying that because I've used that technique, because I have not. Another possibility for you is other people use like a palette, a plexi palette that's shaped like a palette, and I just use my acrylic blocks. These are for stamping. You apply your stamps to them. So I can go ahead and scribble some blue. Watch out for the chunks. Again, this can be very messy, so you will want to, if you don't want to do direct, you can put some of the pigment on your block and it looks exactly like the other techniques do. Maybe not as vibrant, which is why the direct to the pencil is the way to get the most color from it. So that's what that looks like. And then, so that's a chunk. That's going to be really vibrant. Okay, I am going to show you the sponge technique. I am picking a corner. This had a gray, and I'm going to put some of the blue that I just put in my thing. I'm going to get my sponge a little bit wet. Going to go in. It's going to be very vibrant, and then I will apply it. I am now going to grab water to soften up the edges. And I want more water, so I'm going to grab the bigger brush. And you can push the water right up to the edge so you get a nice vibrant, if you're going with darker or lighter, you can control how you want the watercolor effect to look. I am going to dry that. All right, so the last thing to do here, I've shown you the coloring of the pencil on the paper and activating it with a brush. On this side, I picked up some extra color from the brush or the crayon tip, and down here I showed you how quickly you can get a really vibrant color using the sponge. And that's all the little bit of shavings that we used. I demoed how to fill this pan. It is still wet. It will get put away with all its brothers and sisters. And now the last thing that I want to do, I showed you that I used the rolling pen and frisket, because now I want to remove that frisket so you can see what the look is. And I purposefully left this alone so that we can see what it looks like without any background added. So to remove the frisket, you can use your finger, and it is like a rubbery substance. You can use one of these erasers that are used for picking up extra glue that you don't want. Again, crossover from the crafting world. So either your finger, and I did go all the way around. Here's the little remnants. So it's a very clean and easy. And here is what the finished colored image with the background looks like. 3 different ways of doing a background. My favorite between the 3, with ease of use and how vibrant it is and how quick it is the sponge. Definitely my preference, especially if I'm doing a full-size image. I don't know, you can control it better with the brush, but it just doesn't give it that deep, rich look that I prefer. And that's same in my paper crafting for card making. I will go to the sponge before I will go to a brush. So that concludes my demo with this fun crossover episode. I hope that you learned some new ways to possibly use these Distress watercolor pencils. Do all of the YouTube things, like, share, and consider subscribing. I really appreciate you guys. And I will be back with the daily color, which I do every day. I color around 45 minutes in the Small Victories book, so you can always color along with me anytime you want. And I will see you then.